In the customer sales and consignment record, I'm going to be explaining what this screen does. As we said in the first video, this is a wholesale and sales, but to include consignment. And what this means is that certain businesses that you work with, which just shows a storefront in this container field where you can paste it in just by clicking and adding an image from your camera. So if you go to a local store and you're going to be using wholesale or consignment there, or you're going to do sales for retail, and that covers all the aspects of this application, you can do retail, sales, wholesale sales, and consignment. This is for a company that is producing products of some sort, and they want to be able to do all three of those: retail, wholesale, and consignment. Now the application treats both the production, development, and information as far as each individual store front where you're going to be selling things or consigning them or selling them as retail sales. Okay, let's go ahead and look at this screen, and we're going to start at the upper left-hand corner and move across. As we showed in the first video, this is the main menu where you can go to any screen in the application by just tapping once to go to that screen. And in addition to that, if you are using this application, you need to know the parent screens. In this case, they're color-coded, as we said in the main screen. This is a parent screen, this is a parent screen, this is a parent screen, and this one is. So those are parent screens, and child screens are the ones that are subordinate to it. And typically those are used in portals where you have a portal record. This is a portal record, but it's a different kind of a portal record. As we're coming down the screen, we're looking at UDF fields. And what UDF fields are is you put the field name in and then the data that you want related to it. And what this means is that if you have user-defined fields that are not included in the record, where there's nothing available for that data other than a notes field, and yet you want to watch them and be able to sort on them separately and also to find them, you would put them in this portal by giving it a title for the field and then the data for the field. This is a nice way to track and put information in that is not going to be relevant to each client, but it would be relevant to individual clients, and you can have individual fields that you define for that application. Okay, going across now, we're looking at the Do Action screen, and in the Do Action screen, you can add a new record, and new add record is only available in parent screens. It will be blank or missing from the choice of tap upon items within each individual screen for the Do Action. If it's missing, that means it's a child screen, and you do not add any other records to that screen. Now I'm going to show you something that's very important, that if you click in a field here and this pops up, you're going to see that you can move between fields doing previous and next, and you can go to the top of all the records by clicking here. You can also see how many records are available. In this case, there's 2 records, and we're actually able to view both of them. And you can cycle through in each direction if you have multiple records. And you can also do show omitted. And once you show omitted, then this will show omitted records on this side by the quantity that you omitted. What is an omitted record? An omitted record is something that you do not want to show in the current selection of records. Typically, this is done where you have a list view and you're working down through the records, and maybe you did a find and you find a record or so in there that you do not want to include in the current listing for printing or even for a selection to view. What you would do is omit that record that you're currently viewing in the records on the found set in a list view, and then you can reverse that. If you wanted to reverse that, you can go ahead and say show all or show omitted, the ones that are omitted. And what it would do is it would show the omitted. Now, when you want to omit a record, in the list here will be a thing that says omit record. And that is what you would do to remove one record from the list view for that set, and then it would show up here as 1 minus. Then it would show the number of records in the current set, and if you slide this over, it'll allow you to slide between records by sliding. Or you can use this arrow here to move between records if you want to omit them as you're viewing them. This particular set of icons here are not used. This would add a record or delete a record. You do not want to use those unless you really know what you're doing, and I'm saying don't use it. It's not required, because in almost all the records there is in the Do Action menu gives you the ability to do what you have to do to edit the records. When you want to get out of this screen and remove the keyboard, you can either do it here or you can click Done. And what Done does is it removes it and shows the record again. This up here in the corner is if you have an address for this particular client and you click on this, it will give you the ability to see their location in Google Maps. So you would see Google Maps come up and then you would see the location. Now if you actually log in, for example, if you get rid of this little guy right here and then you log into the maps, and the way that you do that is you slide to the side on the edge of the screen and pop it over, and then it'll give you the ability to go ahead and see all those map elements that are on the side of the screen. In this case, I would have to go to actually delete this and then slide this over. Go ahead and get rid of the keyboard. And now I'm in this screen, I can grab it at the edge and pull over to see sign in and all the data that would be available to me for Google Maps. As you go in here and say, for example, and put in satellite maps, it'll switch to satellite maps, and then you can put the address in of which you're looking for in this area up here on the top. So that's Google Maps. It's included in the application for locating businesses that you want to go to when they're, especially when they're new, or you're sending somebody in the field where they need to be able to see that particular thing on your application and get directions. You can also put directions in this field right here if you want turn by turn directions for each individual business that you're talking to. Now, talking about that right now, this is one individual business as a parent record, and there can be sub-records that are below that. For example, these are sub-records down here, and child records is what they're basically called, like a list view, a typed list, and these other ones that are related to doing things in this record for the client screen. Okay, down at the bottom of the screen, now we've already shown you how to add an image here, but down here when you're using the application and you're working with tax that are in the city, county, and state for taxes, and this may be if it's in a foreign country, could be all included in here in one tax at the very top, and use that. What these are is individual taxes that you may have in the county, city, and state, and then they're summarized as the rate that you may be using over here. But these are also flagged in reports where you can see the individual rate that was actually used. Now, when you're setting up a client, you're setting up a client for the tax that they are particularly affected by wherever you're selling the items where you're selling them. So if you're in a state where there's multiple states, you would have to put in the tax rate that's inclusive for that particular business in that city, county, and state where you're collecting it. Now, be aware that if you're collecting tax in the United States and you have taxes that you're paying into your local state, that may be all the taxes that you have to worry about. But some states, especially if you're using the internet, may require you to put in taxes for the local city, area, and county taxes and state taxes for another state. And I anticipate that that may happen in future years where the internet will change the way that taxes are collected. So there is an ability to manage this in this application by a individual business, wherever you're located. Okay, if you're outside and you're not having to worry about paying taxes in the outside area, for example, say you live in Arizona like I do, and you're going to California, and you're going to be doing some wholesale stuff there, you do not have to tax in the state of California if you're from Arizona. So be aware, and you should check with your accountant or your local taxing organization to make sure that when you're doing taxes, that those taxes are relevant for your state or not required in any state around you. Okay, this is the maps, the do action, the app menus, and the UDFs that we covered here. The add an image of the business where you're going to actually be selling or consigning items, and or places that you may be selling in retail in that particular location. This will come relevant when you're actually doing reports and other things within the application where the client that you're working with needs to have that information in order to do reports. Okay, if you have any questions about using this screen, you can always contact us through the developer support and ask questions on the chat or send us an email. Thank you.